ignoring the children writhing in agony from illness. The ruthless hunter delivered a crushing blow, growling, "You talk too much, you bastard." The emaciated man was sent flying from the impact, the child's arms slipping from his weak grasp. But another hand swiftly caught the falling child. The father scrambled up, his heart breaking, and screamed in despair. Jin Young, In Jang gently reassured him, "The baby's all right." Taking his child back from the girl, the father clutched the baby tightly, choking out his gratitude. "Thank you." Seeing this, the surrounding hunters closed in, demanding, "Who are you?" Their eyes focused on the girl. In Jang stared back at the cruel men with an icy gaze, rage building within her. She clenched her fists, magical power surging, as if wanting to unleash her fury on behalf of the pitiful father and child. Terrified, the hunters stumbled back. The men who had been aggressive just moments before now cowered in a corner, exclaiming in fear, "Where did this monster come from?" Trang composed herself and offered the vial of healing medicine. She gently explained to the father and son, "Give this to your son. This medicine can cure almost any ailment." Overjoyed, the father expressed his gratitude. "Thank you." Suddenly, a desperate scream pierced the air. "Me, I need it too." A frantic crowd surged towards Trang. "I'm sick too. My child is as well. Please help us. Tell us how to cure them." Yun Trang was horrified by the chaotic scene. If this many people move suddenly, someone will get hurt. The guards, snapping out of their shock, grabbed their weapons. "Back! Everyone back! This outsider is the cause of this trouble." Jun Jung felt a chill run down his spine as he witnessed the chaos. The situation had spiraled out of control. Even Seo On-gu was powerless. "It seems we have to intervene." But a cold voice, the sound echoed, so powerful that even an arrogant man like Jun Jung turned to look. The others were frozen in terror, not daring to move a single millimeter. Silence fell. All eyes turned towards the imposing figure standing atop the skyscraper. It was none other than Eagle, the supreme leader. "I will not tolerate this chaos," Eagle declared. "Investigate the cause of this incident immediately." His subordinates replied in unison, "Yes, sir." Then Eagle turned to In Jang, his voice laced with reprimand. "You shouldn't cause such a disturbance," Eagle said. "As a guest, you should behave appropriately." And Jang felt a surge of anger. She berated herself for almost causing a serious accident. This is so frustrating, she thought. But thankfully, the situation had been salvaged by this person's arrival. Therefore, she had to try and suppress her anger, could only remain silent. Seeing her like this, Eagle smiled smugly, satisfied, and Kang was utterly humiliated. She could only drag her feet, each step heavy with shame. Jun Ji-I Hong kindly consoled her, saying it wasn't her fault, but she only softly replied with a thank you. After settling everything, Eagle announced, "We will now begin distributing the food rations." The crowd below bowed their heads in subservience, chanting in unison, "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." Back in her small room, and Kang yelled in frustration. Why did they submit to him? She furiously vented her frustration. Is it all because of the gold? They're hunters. They're supposed to protect people. Jun Ji-I Hong calmly reasoned. I doubt it's because of money. He calmly analyzed. Hunters aren't exactly lacking in financial resources. Not many would dare follow him, because with that much gold. In Jang furrowed his brow in confusion. Why is that? The young man paused, then answered. Perhaps they know they can't stop him. Even if they don't need the money, they still want to live. Even if they risked everything. The girl's face darkened. They wouldn't be able to stop Eagle. He nodded in agreement. Exactly. Igor possesses incredible strength and skill. So much so that both Asgard and Olympus want to recruit him. He's a rare talent, unlike anything we've seen before. We can't know what he's truly hiding. He glanced at Song-gu. Song-gu despises false strength. He spoke with a hardened tone. That scum hasn't changed one bit. He's a master of political manipulation and acted just like a real secret agent. That's the reason he was sent to Europe. As a spy, he frowned, tormenting himself. I really don't know how to deal with someone who holds so much crucial information, such earth-shattering secrets. Hearing this, In Jang grew even more furious. Imagining the father and son being brutally tortured made her blood boil. Resentment burned like a raging fire within her. But at this moment, her mind was on something else. It seemed like almost all the children here were sick. Could it be because of the great catastrophe? The manna, from that catastrophe, did it negatively affect these children? Junji immediately countered, no. Actually, mana has a positive impact on their development. He further explained, because children's bodies are still young and underdeveloped, their mana absorption, a child's life force, is even stronger than an adult's. And Kang stared in disbelief, his eyes wide with shock. So why was Song-gu clinging to the arm of Eagle's chair so desperately? It was his fault. His face darkened, becoming an unreadable mask. No living being possesses a life force as potent as a child's. And Kang gasped in horror. Impossible. Song-gu shot up from his seat in a rage. The ingredient he uses to refine gold, it's children. I have to see Eagle. But at this moment, he was lost in admiration of his gleaming mountain of gold. Even when Song-gu's group arrived, he maintained a chilling composure. He even offered a provocation. What do you think of my empire? In Song-gu's eyes, a storm of rage and other complex emotions swirled. Seeing this, Eagle tossed the gold bar aside in boredom. The clink of gold on gold echoed with a chilling clarity. A voice so sweet it could charm even artificial intelligence. He laughed in anger. What good does glaring at me do? That's precisely why you'll never achieve anything of significance. You're too weak, too easily swayed. That's why you can never reach the pinnacle of power. Look at me. Haven't I already become the ruler of this place? Hearing these venomous words, Jun Jiaeyong fell into deep thought. It seemed he finally realized that Song-gu wouldn't hesitate to sacrifice him to protect the hostages. Although Eagle is powerful, he's not invincible. We can still defeat him. Looking at the man's imposing back, he couldn't help but feel curious. Even if he's holding hostages, the simplest solution is to subdue him. What will Song-gu choose to do? Meanwhile, Igor had pushed Song-gu to the edge of his fury. Magical energy radiated from him, showcasing the sheer intensity of his rage. But he only sneered contemptuously. Don't be foolish and try anything stupid. Immediately after, thousands of shimmering golden threads appeared, accompanied by his arrogant tone. All the children in this area have. Seo-on-gu sensed the imminent danger and quickly retracted his weapon. Even Jun-jung was horrified by the sight. Those thousands of golden threads. They are golden eagle. Seeing their terrified expressions, he gave a sinister, contemptuous smile. If I die, then thousands of children out there will die with me. What a magnificent act. Countless golden threads connect to the shacks outside. I am a genius schemer. He gleefully declared himself. The one who devours the dreams and lives of these brats. The madman spoke as if he were doing righteous work. Seo-on-gu, I just wanted to quietly rule this place. The more he rambled, the more Seo-on-gu's brows furrowed. You think you can act with impunity? This world will soon return to its primal state. You think you can find safe haven here? Eagle just smirked. Who knows? But if that time does come, I will have even more young lives in my grasp. In my grasp. His face twisted into a cruel expression. Like a demon from hell. The lives of these children will pave a different future, should this world crumble. Don't they say children are precious as gold? He casually concluded, I only desire to quietly rule this place and enjoy a life of ease. Wang-gu thought to himself, with a headache, that he disliked the man, but he needed to use Odin's name to intimidate him. He spoke with Odin's authority. Igor interrupted him. The truth about Odin's disappearance is in the palm of my hand. Song-gu's eyes widened in astonishment. He couldn't believe he knew so much. Igor looked at Song-gu with a disdainful and arrogant smirk. I've also heard that Rod has disappeared. These words sent shivers down Song-gu's spine. He trembled in fear. Hey Chow, how do you know that? Seeing Song-gu's reaction, he smiled triumphantly. You seem quite surprised by my intelligence network. Of course, I have no intention of revealing it to you. The only thing I can tell you is... He raised an eyebrow, dismissing him. Be silent and get out of here. Killing you would only be a nuisance. Live or die, I don't care. Whether you want to save the world or seek your own death, it's of no concern to me. Just get out of my city. Song-gu was suddenly caught in a dilemma. Are we just going to retreat? If we leave now, there will be no chance to save the innocent people here. Sacrifice the few to save the many, but the children will suffer. But if you kill this villain, will you be plagued by endless remorse? I don't want to fall into that dark path. I don't want to repeat Odin's tragedy. Amidst the extreme tension, Jun-jung suddenly spoke, breaking the suffocating atmosphere. We will leave here. We will use all our power to stop Song-gu. We won't let you continue to get entangled with a cunning person like Igo. Hearing that, he scoffed in agreement. However, Jun-jung himself wouldn't easily let Song-gu off the hook. In return, please give us a little more time. Song-gu suddenly understood Jun-jung's intention. So that's it. He has come up with a plan. Hearing this condition, Eagle hesitated. A moment later, he wondered what Jun-jung was planning to do. After a moment of deep thought, he made a decision. I can't give you too much time. Leave this place within 2 days. Jun-ji watched him nod in agreement. All right. The group then left the room, leaving Eagle alone with his thoughts. That guy, does he have a backup plan? He unconsciously brought a hand to his chin, muttering, well, all right, maybe this is for the best. 2 days won't pose any danger to you, and that's precisely the time I need. Eagle immediately ordered everyone to assemble. Meanwhile, Jun-ji's group was completely unaware of this. He had made a very daring decision. We will proceed with the ritual. Seen outside the building, Jun-ji was discussing the plan with Song-gu and In-chong. That guy is also preparing. In-chong spoke with a worried tone. He'll definitely set a trap there, so we can't do anything. Dude, do you really have a way? He'll render us completely powerless. Do you really have a solution? Jun-ji smiled in response. Of course. I was a bit apprehensive when I heard he was a limitless benefactor, but in the end, I just feel sorry for him. Song-gu's expression suddenly brightens. That title only holds value when true hunters, exceptionally skilled and powerful, receive his support. He can only play hero thanks to his massive inheritance. So what's your plan? Jun-jiang slowly answers. He glances at In-chong. She points at herself in surprise. Me? He confidently affirms, exactly. You are the key to defeating him. Jun-jiang recalls the image of him using his skill. During the encounter with Eagle, I observed the mana flowing from him. It was connected to many others. Those affected by that technique. He can take their lives whenever he wants. Jun-jiang stands up, extends his hand, and begins to explain to In-chong. You're willing to save them no matter the cost, aren't you? Give me your answer now. Yes. The young man's face was resolute. There will be some pain. Can you endure it? In-chong asked calmly. Will I die? Jun-jiang's gaze was filled with seriousness. What if I said it was a possibility? The girl sighed, a frown creasing her brow. Her eyes shone with determination. I'll still do it. Jun-jiang gave a slight smile. Satisfied with In-chong's answer, he laid out the plan. I'll figure out a way in the next 2 days. The problem is, he'll also be more cautious and prepared. In-chong turned his head, glancing towards someone approaching. The door slowly creaked open. They walked in and stood opposite Jun-jiang's group. He asked, what's going on? Jugin and his teammates have come to ask for help from Underdog 6 feet and Mr. L. Song-gu. They knelt down, pleading, please help us. Jun-jiang and Song-gu were both stunned by this action. Jong-jun lets out a booming roar, urging the crowd. Everyone, gather here immediately. At the same time, Igor stands above, his sharp eyes observing the crowd below. He casually puts his hands in his pockets and says in a cold voice, is everything prepared? Jong-jun hastily reports. Yes, sir. We have gathered all of them. Not a single one is missing. Igor raises a hand, emanating an untapped energy. He coldly declares, good. Then let's begin. He opens his hand, unleashing a mystical skill. Mystical auras flow from his hand and rain down below. They transform into countless magical threads, binding each person in the crowd. Igor clenches his fist. A sinister smile spreads across his face. Ha ha ha. He challenges them. Come on, try it. Everyone is affected by his magic, unable to move. Igor proudly declares, you can't trade the lives of so many people like that. 2 days later at the building, Zhejuan is briefing Eagle on the situation. They've mostly stayed in their room, occasionally bumping into a few people in the central training ground. However, none of the conversations seem truly important. His eyes are filled with calculation. So, Song-gu L gave up, and there's no sign of his crew anymore. Igo lets out a sarcastic chuckle. Well, even if he hadn't given up, what could he possibly do? He abruptly stands up and declares in a loud voice, all right, it's time to see our guests out. His face is full of arrogance. Haha, this is the ultimate paradise, where I hold supreme power, commanding soldiers and controlling my slaves. I will become the emperor of this place. The scene shifts to the outside of the building. Jun-ji's group stands facing Eagle. He asked, you should leave now, shouldn't you? Mr. Gu immediately replied, yes. Our agreement is no longer valid. Igor broke out in a cold sweat, thinking to himself, damn it, they're up to something. He continued his warning. If you act recklessly, the The people here will suffer the consequences. Don't you dare try anything. June yelled after him. Eagle immediately panicked. What the hell are you doing? Don't you care about the hostages' lives? He raised both hands threateningly. Eagle roared furiously. Bastard, you dare double-cross me? I'll kill 10 people as an example for trying to trick me. Their deaths will be on your hands. A sword plunged into the ground. He glanced at it with a worried look. Intrang slowly pulled out the sword. Hector, activate. Eagle looked down at his hands in astonishment. Impossible. The wires connected to the hostages. They're gone. His connecting threads pulsed violently, a manifestation of his inner turmoil. Each strike he unleashed aimed to bind the girl, to imprison her within his web. She did it. She succeeded. Junjiai's face lit up with excitement, joy evident in his expression. Inchang just activated another latent skill of Gram. Gram possesses the ability to absorb magical energy and mana from the surrounding environment. Now we can go on the offensive. It's time to strike back. Eagle scowled, his hands clenching into fists. Foolish. You're insane. Are you trying to fight me alone? To withstand the pull of thousands of binding threads? Inchang gripped her sword with both hands, channeling all her strength into it. She gritted her teeth, her eyes blazing with unwavering determination. His energy threads pierced her iron armor, tearing through her defenses. Inchang coughed up a mouthful of blood, screaming in agony. Junjiai shot forward like a lightning bolt. He charged with all his might, his eyes burning with fury. Ever since receiving the title of 6 feet and Awakening Gram, she had yet to fully unlock the sword's hidden potential. Her power as an immortal being hasn't reached perfection yet. He's incredibly worried, but even in this precarious situation, she's still using Gram. I have to take down that bastard quickly. Eagle glances at him in confusion, then roars. You despicable wretch. How dare you use such dirty tricks? He starts to shift the trajectory of his hand's attack. Eagle creates a shield of electrical energy in front of him. His attack is blocked by the shield. Jun Jiayang, holding the muspel spear, is startled. What's happening? I'm being pushed back. CEO Gu shouts sternly. Jun Jiayang advance. The massive sword created by Eagle launches towards him. Jun Jiayang quickly jumps back to dodge. Jijin laughs triumphantly. As expected of Master Igor, his fighting prowess is truly extraordinary. You need to maintain your fighting spirit. He's overwhelming underdog. Igor spins around and roars at the people behind him. You fools! What are you all just standing there for? Clear out these pests in the arena for me. Jijin and his teammates, brimming with energy, began to gather their power. Obeying the command, they rushed in to assist him. In an instant, Xianggu, sword into the air, sword in hand, preparing to strike him from behind. He swung his sword with all his might. Eagle turned, his face contorted in a grimace of effort. He used one hand to create an energy shield to block Xianggu's attack. The relentless blows rained down on his shield. Xianggu roared in fury as he struck. How can a despicable scoundrel like you possess such terrifying power? How many lives have fallen because of you? Igor scoffed, a provocative look on his face. With his other hand, he created an energy sword. Many more. Didn't you see the corpses littering the path here? He launched the energy sword straight at Xianggu. Knock him back. Those greedy goal hunters are willing to kill too. He quickly retreated to avoid his opponent's ferocious counterattack. A series of sharp eagle swords materialized, hovering in midair. The swords began to hurtle forward with incredible speed. He stood defiantly amidst the battlefield, wielding the swords with the grace and precision of a supreme deity. As this transpired, his face contorted into an expression of cruel arrogance. I will become even more powerful. Eagle commanded the razor-sharp swords to launch. His brutal attack was aimed directly at his adversary. Songgu unleashed an earth-shattering explosion, sending dust and debris flying. Rubble scattered everywhere. The scene abruptly shifted. Jae-jun was rapidly approaching the encampment. He drew his sword and charged forward with a ferocious battle cry. Kill them all. For him. Eagle wants us to slaughter everyone. His enraged scream caused everyone to freeze in terror. The people were stunned beyond belief. What? A courageous comrade stepped forward to intervene. He was determined to protect the innocent mothers and children, sending him into a fit of rage. What are you doing? Don't cause any more trouble. Just kill them all. But she's just a helpless civilian with a child. Jijin stood his ground, refusing to yield. If you can't do it, then step aside, you useless fool. The woman clutched her child tightly, tears streaming down her face. Please don't. I beg you. His sword, imbued with potent dark magic, came crashing down. The terrified woman squeezed her eyes shut, shielding her child. Suddenly, a loud clang rang out. Slowly, she opened her eyes. Jijin lay motionless on the ground, fatally wounded. Jugan appeared, calming the crowd. Is everyone all right? Evacuate this area immediately. The mother, still trembling, stood up, holding her child's hand tightly. You were the one who stood with your comrades, explaining the situation. I apologize for what happened before. No, we weren't strong enough to stop Igor. We'll hold back Igor's men. Everyone, get out of here quickly. The melancholic young woman replied, but we have nowhere else to go. There's nowhere safer than here. A sudden voice startled her. This way, Hio appeared, speaking urgently. Master, he's created another sanctuary. The two sides clashed. A chaotic battle erupted. You bastard! How dare you? How dare you betray us? I don't want to live a pathetic life like this anymore. Yunji gestured wildly, shouting, Run! This way! Hurry! At the heart of the fierce fighting, Song-gu relentlessly swung his blade, attacking his opponents. With a single slash, Eagle was sent flying back dozens of meters. The scene looked like a small bomb had exploded. His body crashed repeatedly into everything around him until he finally came to a stop. Eagle coughed up a mouthful of blood, his mouth filled with crimson. He trembled, his face a mask of disbelief and terror. A monster, he stammered. How is he not only huge and muscular, but also so strong? He was consumed by utter astonishment. I knew from the start that El Song-gu was a formidable opponent, but he reminds me of Jun Jung, an underdog with immense potential. That brat gave me quite a bit of trouble. Right now, In Chong is still tightly gripping his weapon. Siegfried has cut me off from the main power source. Damn it, my kingdom. Suddenly, from Eagle's position, a powerful energy began to surge. His eyes glowed bright yellow, his teeth clenched tight. No, I can't let it end like this. Even if it costs me my soul, I will destroy everything. But before he could act, Song-gu suddenly appeared behind him. This is your retribution. The sudden appearance caught him completely off guard, his face filled with shock. What the hell is happening? When did he get here? Without hesitation, Song-gu swung his blade, slashing straight at Eagle. Once again, excruciating pain made him freeze, screaming in agony. Without hesitation, he charged forward, defying the imminent danger. Are you afraid to die again? The colossal cannon unleashed a terrifying surge of energy, descending with breathtaking speed, precise and clean. This time, the attack landed with its full force, squarely upon him. The sheer power of the attack was overwhelming, leaving him unable to defend himself, forcing him to his knees. As the smoke and dust cleared, Eagle remained kneeling, paying the price for his sins. Mistagu narrowed his eyes, coldly uttering each word. This is your retribution. He then turned to Jun Ji and reported, he's dead. The tragic scene plunged him into deep thought. The rulers that appear in this world, they're nothing but harbingers of destruction. Calling them monsters wouldn't be wrong. He turned and walked away, his thoughts still lingering on Eagle, realizing that he was nothing more than a wicked demon. But before he could take another step, a sense of unease washed over him. Jun Jiayoung's eyes widened in alarm as he scanned his surroundings. What is this sense of danger? Impossible. Let's go. CEO Gu interrupted his thoughts. We have people to save. But Jun Jiayoung didn't respond, only tightening his grip on his weapon. His action surprised CEO Gu, raising questions about Jun Jiayoung. And Chong, standing beside them, was also confused. Jun Jiayoung, he's already dead. But then, an unusual energy fluctuation emanated from the body. Eagle voiced what he was thinking. Suddenly, Jun Jiayoung tensed and yelled, "Get down, now!" At that very moment, a fist, packed with terrifying force, suddenly struck. Damn it! With lightning-fast reflexes, CEO Gu raised his blade to block the attack. Yet, the sheer force of the blow sent him staggering backward, knocked back a considerable distance. This sudden turn of events left him completely baffled and bewildered. How could the owner of that infamous golden fist be Eagle, the man everyone believed to be dead? Could it be? Jun Jiayoung, with his sharp senses, quickly noticed the vacant emptiness in his eyes. He really was dead. Then why could he sense the energy of the ruler? emanating from him. Without keeping everyone waiting any longer, Eagle, with a bizarre and sudden ferocity, let out a monstrous roar. Lines of bright red text from his system notification appeared, stark against the backdrop. An apocalyptic sky. Charming Prince, King of the Rainbow, is observing. 3 consecutive question marks appeared, leaving Jun Jiayong utterly astonished. Inchong was equally shocked. The notification continued, displaying a chilling message that sent shivers down their spines. Observing you, the surrounding scene abruptly shifted to the battleground of the remaining group. Without hesitation, Jugan unleashed a fatal blow toward his opponent, causing him to scream out in pain. After suffering one final, powerful attack, the man collapsed and died. Julian breathed a sigh of relief and turned to look at his comrades. "We've taken down almost all of Eagle's hunters," he exclaimed with relief, then solemnly declared, "From now on, there'll be more righteous hunters than villains." After successfully clearing the area, he ordered, "All right, let's move out. It's time to go support Underdog's group." Suddenly, Gongju gasped, as if sensing something ominous. Youngji immediately shouted a warning. "Behind you!" Jugan asked back in confusion, completely unaware of what was happening. "The enemy came back to life and is standing right behind me." The opponent, having appeared from behind, suddenly lunged forward with terrifying speed. Faced with this unexpected situation, Jugan exclaimed in shock, "What is this?" Fortunately, Gongdu appeared just in time from behind to block the attack for him. His attack, even burying it under a pile of rubble in the distance. Ju-Won immediately regained his composure and looked at it with grateful eyes. "Haha, thanks." In return, it cheerfully gave a thumbs up, but it didn't stop there. Eun-ji continued to yell in a panic, "Look, the dead hunters!" Very quickly, everyone understood what it meant by resurrection. The bizarre sight of the hunters rising one after another made everyone gasp in horror. Golden bodies? What the hell is this? What's happening? Eagle, newly revived, opened his mouth and let out a ferocious roar. His roar seemed amplified, spreading everywhere. Not only that, but also seeped through every crack in the rubble. The earth-shattering sound echoing all the way to where Julian's group was fighting, causing everyone to exclaim in confusion. What was that monstrous growl? The answer was quickly revealed, as the group of gold hunters all turned their heads in the same direction. In an instant, the entire undead army rose up, as if summoned by a supernatural force. They charged forward with incredible speed. Jugan suddenly understood everything. The deceased hunters were heading towards the source of the mysterious sound. The survivors were just as terrified as Underdog's group. "What's happening?" Jugan asked, sweating profusely as he looked ahead. No one expected that those gold hunters were the source of energy that was increasing Eagle's power, making him even stronger. That golden giant, Eagle, seemed unable to resist this energy source. Not only that, the sight of the hunters being sucked into his body was even more astonishing. Eagle was absorbing energy from the recently revived hunters. Witnessing such a terrifying Eagle, Jugan clenched his fists and spoke. "We have to go help Underdog's group." But his daring plan was immediately met with resistance. "No, look, it's too dangerous. We'll be killed." Facing this perilous situation, he refused to back down, not even an inch, even if it costs us our lives. "We must push forward," he went on, his voice booming, rallying the others. "Remember our ideals. Remember our ideals. Remember what we looked like before those monsters appeared. We were just like those filthy, disgusting golden creatures who just transformed into monsters. If we choose to run away again, we're no different from those monsters." Your words, they truly awakened everyone's hearts. Even if death comes for me, I want to die as a true human, without needing any urging. One by one, everyone charged into battle, filled with fighting spirit. "All right, charge." The entire army, every single soldier, is brimming with courage and unwavering determination. Death before dishonor. Even if we perish, we will fall as true humans. We all die only once. Witnessing this scene, Julian couldn't help but feel exhilarated. He smiled with satisfaction, completely unaware of what lurked behind him. Everyone. Suddenly, a deep voice, resonant as a cello, echoed from the vast expanse. "The master requires no assistance." The authoritative declaration sent a wave of astonishment through the crowd. The voice continued, "He possesses unmatched power and needs no help from other AIs." At that very moment, an earth-shattering tremor rocked the battlefield on the other side. Eagle, A colossal figure with a gold-plated body was furiously unleashing powerful blows upon Jiang Yin. But Jiang Yin was unfazed by the terrifying might. She bravely raised her broadsword, ready to meet the challenge. In a flash, she leaped. Her attack collided head-on with his destructive power. Witnessing the result, she thought to herself, I hit him. He must have sustained some damage. But amidst the thick dust cloud created by the battle, golden streams of energy still flashed brilliantly. In an instant, Eagle threw a punch with terrifying speed, tearing through the air. The following sweeping blow, Iron Fist, carrying earth-shattering force, collided head-on with the opponent's attack. Intong, the ground around the area, was once again devastated by that terrifying energy. Intang's stamina, after that fiery collision, was severely depleted. She wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, filled with frustration. I can't even injure him a little bit? What in the world is he? Not a hunter? Could he be a monster? As she was lost in confusion, Songgu showed a look of doubt. It's like something I saw back there. Hearing that, Zhang Hui was startled. No way. And Andre? His question made Songgu even more frightened. How do you know about Andre? He skillfully evaded the question. Does that even matter now? So you saw that thing in Andre? Understanding the urgency, Songgu immediately answered. Exactly. I felt a similar energy there. Maybe. You should ask him again. Did you feel anything special when you signed the contract? His answer left him speechless. You even know about this? It's similar to the feeling I got at the sponsor's place. Mid-conversation, a thought suddenly struck him. If that's true, then it's like a patron god descending to Earth. I can't be certain, but if a transcendent being, like the sponsor, is trying to descend to this world. Junwoo broke out in a cold sweat. Then it will surely be an unstoppable disaster. Before he could finish the thought, the man approached him. Seonggu coldly declared, I will do it. With each step I take, the power I speak of grows exponentially. A power that, until now, I've never wanted to stop. But he didn't expect Junwoo to grab his shoulder in time. It's okay, calm down. Then he stepped forward. Despite his astonished expression at the words just spoken, I know why you sealed your power and refused to use it. That ability is nothing but a poison to you. Let me help you. His eyes flashed a brilliant red, followed by a surge of energy that illuminated his entire being. The great catastrophe tempered and enhanced the hunter's powers. He recalled reality and a memory of those early days. Talented hunters who had attained a new source of power, like how Jinwoo became stronger and wielded Gam. After careful reflection on the root cause, he grew more determined. I could do it too. Break all limits. This is the moment he becomes stronger. It's time to unleash the dormant power, no longer held back. Chairman Go stood behind him, witnessing this scene, and couldn't help but exclaim in astonishment, absolute black flame. At that moment, a jet black flame, a sudden notification from the system pops up. The weakened dragon heart has now been filled with magic power, reaching the ultimate realm, and it has evolved into the heart of the apocalyptic dragon god. At that very moment, a terrifying energy hidden within. Junjung suddenly erupts with ferocious intensity, but doesn't stop there. A crimson system panel appears simultaneously. The apocalyptic sky is watching the battle and decides to bestow a special boon upon his incarnation. But these notifications can't shake. The moment he tightens his grip on his weapon and charges straight toward the giant eagle. The eagle doesn't even have time to react, only bracing himself to endure the relentless onslaught. From powerful straight punches to devastating uppercuts, each blow carries terrifying force, raining down on the eagle without pause. In the blink of an eye, the eagle's massive body is knocked down, crashing to the ground. But elsewhere, a similar dark energy suddenly converged. All the energies that created me, demonic energy, rage, the bloodline of the dragon clan. From within that thick black flame, a figure identical to Wu Yan emerged. Wu Yan's copy gave a cruel, bloodthirsty smile. All have merged into a single, unified being. Under this omnipotent black flame, I now possess all the latent power that was previously dormant. And now, at this very moment, the ancient and magnificent city of London has become a bloody and tragic battlefield. The troops, after a fierce battle, were barely clinging to life, covered in wounds, facing such terrifying power. Lancelot couldn't help but exclaim inwardly, truly a monster. How could a person? They all stood at the foot of the towering spire, looking up at that mighty figure. Everyone looked at him with admiration and astonishment. At this moment, the Demon King was focused on observing what was ahead, completely unaware that everyone thought he had created a barrier and evacuated everyone by warping space, an extraordinary ability beyond imagination. At the same time, Arthur anxiously called out to Merlin beside him, his voice filled with worry. Despite the tension, Merlin maintained a stern expression as she replied to Arthur, "I'm fine." But deep down, she felt even more bewildered. Perhaps she wasn't the only one who felt this person resembled an artificial intelligence. Unsure if it was truly AI or not, she continued to quietly observe his every move. Suddenly, something startled him. His expression turned guarded in an instant. Immediately, he turned his head and looked in that direction. Amidst the murmurs and whispers, did they notice his sharp gaze and knowing smile? But whether they did or not, they couldn't help but be amazed and awestruck. He seemed to have reached an entirely new level. Lancelot was still focusing all his energy, his brow furrowed in frustration. Letting your guard down in a fierce battle like this is a fatal mistake. However, Arthur suddenly blurted out something seemingly absurd. He has no weaknesses. But having no openings isn't a reason to back down. The surrounding energy began to fluctuate violently. Seizing the opportunity, Merlin shouted to Lancelot, "Attack, now!" Lancelot reacted swiftly and lunged forward. Only by attacking can we create an opening. Merlin wasn't idle either. She reached out, summoning her sacred treasure, and thought to herself, "Lancelot is risking his life. I can't let him fight alone." Then she yelled, "Bind!" Immediately, Merlin's chains of light and Lancelot's ferocious power intertwined, forming a massive surge of energy that struck the Demon King head-on. Taking advantage of that opening, Arthur suddenly raised his holy sword, Excalibur. With a mighty roar, he summoned the Knights of the Round Table. "Defend the shores of England. By your command, young master." The valiant knights charged into battle, heedless of the danger. Ha ha ha. However, the seemingly unbreakable chain of knights was suddenly broken as they neared their opponent's destructive flames. With a simple wave of his hand, the knight's entire attack, including that of the mighty Lancelot, was completely neutralized. The lance even fell from his grasp. The soldiers below were stunned by this terrifying display. "It's dangerous. Sir Lancelot has dropped his weapon." But Arthur's thoughts were entirely different. "Magnificent, Lancelot. So you intentionally discarded your lance. It was merely a diversion. For the true attack lies in that secret sword." A deafening clash echoed as Lancelot's hidden blade collided with his opponent's weapon. However, Lancelot still suffered a blow from the Demon King. The attack had landed, grievously wounding him in an instant. But the Demon King remained motionless, simply extending a hand. However, the Demon King's overwhelming presence wasn't enough to deter them. They continued to fight valiantly for their homeland. The closer they got to the Demon King, the stronger their resolve to fight to the death became. But alas, he was far faster than them. In a blink of an eye, he neutralized all their attacks. His counterattack, imbued with earth-shattering power, sent them reeling in pain. Seeing everyone pushed back, Egu, who had been in the rear, immediately sprang into action, leaping high to fill the gap. As he soared, Arthur roared, "Everyone fall back!" Using all his strength, he quickly created a massive energy barrier in midair. This unexpected variable, even the Demon King looked up in fear. And then, when the decisive moment arrived, Arthur resolutely unleashed all of that terrifying power. He was standing right below. This was an incredibly dangerous situation, because the power of the attack was unimaginable compared to his small body. When it landed, an earth-shattering explosion occurred, sweeping away everything within a vast radius. This devastating attack incinerated the entire massive structure. A long time afterwards, the tremors finally faded from the neighboring buildings. Everything was shrouded in thick smoke and fire. The directly impacted location and the surrounding area seemed to have been flattened, turned into a wasteland. When Lancelot was found, the knight was grievously wounded, his body ravaged. One arm was severed, the other was scorched. Merlin sorrowfully called out his name, Lancelot, but he was still barely alive, able to weakly ask Merlin a question. "Your Highness, have I completed my mission?" She forced a smile through the tears streaming down her face as she replied, "Indeed, Lancelot, you have done remarkably well. You truly saved our kingdom of Britain. You are the embodiment of a loyal and noble knight." He smiled, a look of deep satisfaction and pride, filling his face at her heartfelt praise. "You are also the savior of everyone here." Amidst the desolate and smoke-filled battlefield, his smile and faith shone as brightly as the sun. "Thank you, Your Highness. You will be done." These were his last words before he bravely sacrificed himself for his country. Everyone bowed their heads in silent farewell. A suffocating silence filled the air. However, Merlin quickly rallied the troops, restoring their fighting spirit. "Today, we have suffered a grave loss. The renowned knights of the Round Table have been almost completely annihilated by a single foe. The one who controls the monsters and wields a terrifying dark power. We shall call him the Demon King," she declared, her voice filled with pride and determination. "Brave knights have fallen to protect the realm of Britain, but because of their sacrifice, we were able to defeat the Demon King and claim a glorious victory." Arthur, standing beside her, immediately added, "Indeed, we have triumphed, and we will continue to triumph." Their fighting spirit spread like wildfire. In an instant, everyone regained their courage, pounding their chests and chanting, "Orders received, orders received, orders received." And yet, a strangely calm voice, completely out of place, suddenly echoed. "It seems a bit premature to celebrate, doesn't it?" Merlin spun around in terror towards the voice, exclaiming, How is this possible?" Arthur, equally horrified, gasped, "How is he still alive? I was certain I killed him." No one expected the one they believed dead to be casually gliding across the water's surface, replying, "You always underestimate everything." Then, he casually reached up and tipped his hat. In an instant, Arthur's jaw dropped in utter disbelief. "Oh my God, it can't be. You're—" As a stranger's face was fully revealed in the light, a nickname was uttered. Underdog. A figure, the spitting image of Jun Jiayong, stood as still as a statue. The name sent a wave of terror through the enemy ranks. One stammered, "Underdog." But Merlin remained completely indifferent to his appearance. "No, he's not Underdog. I can't sense my collar on him." She seemed unconcerned by Arthur's shocked expression, simply blinking. Arthur gritted his teeth and charged, an arrow loosed from a bow. Swinging his sword, he roared in fury, "You arrogant bastard! I'll cut you in half again." Merlin urgently cried out, "Arthur, no," because she believed the amount of magic. Arthur's strength had significantly diminished after the previous attack, but he remained resolutely determined to personally punish the brutal Demon King. A fatal attack was launched from the sword in Arthur's hand, swift as lightning, colliding forcefully with the terrifying power of the Demon King. Yet, with just a slight lift of his hand, he completely neutralized the powerful attack. "You cannot kill me with that counterfeit Excalibur." He even casually grasped the sharp blade. "I've wasted too much time on this charade, so let's end it right here." As soon as he finished speaking, the Demon King abruptly snatched the sword, lifted it high, and with all his might, threw it straight through Arthur's body. Everything happened in a flash. Arthur was flung backward, clutching his shoulder and groaning in pain. Witnessing the scene, the Demon King coldly spoke, "Not bad. I thought you might be able to dodge it." He raised his hand, focusing energy, and said with a contemptuous tone, "But that's all you've got." Surging waves of energy began to appear, catching Arthur completely off guard. He lowered his hand and coldly uttered two words, "Die now." A volley of fireballs mixed with furious lightning bolts erupted, engulfing the entire scene in blinding light. Merlin cried out in terror, calling Arthur's name. At the same time, he hastily gave the order, "Protect the knights." Arthur and his entire army responded in unison, determined to defeat the Demon King. Suddenly, an unexpected event startled Arthur. Just then, a bright green light abruptly appeared, slicing through the Demon King's terrifying power. Immediately afterward, a man wielding a sword in one hand and grabbing Arthur with the other suddenly materialized. The man then scoffed, speaking about Excalibur, a fake. Then how about the real deal? At this provocation, Arthur frowned, repeating the name Excalibur. Meanwhile, Merlin, standing nearby, breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness he arrived in time. Arthur, held like a chicken, could only glare in annoyance. That lightning guy sure is late. Just by looking, it's clear which side Excalibur is on, so the Demon King is understandably wary. Yet the first thing he does is extend his hand. Coincidentally, That gesture makes Arthur feel the sting of being left out. That damn lightning. He only speaks once his hands are free. Now his presence bolsters the morale of the entire army. He laughs. Let's begin round 2. Meanwhile, in another city, a devastating explosion has reduced everything to rubble. Old man Jin frowns and mutters. The boy did it. Intac urgently calls out for Jun Jiayang. Amidst the thick smoke and dust rising from the recent impact, Jun Jiayang's figure slowly emerges. Fortunately, he's safe, though covered in scratches and grime. Seeing him sitting still, Intac asks, "Are you all right?" He replies, "Yeah." Then he flashed a bright smile, adding, "Just a little tired." He spoke while lost in thought. Everything's different now. I'm no longer affected by demonic energy, nor do I lose my mind. Everything is still under my control. He spread his palm and observed it carefully. It feels like power is surging intensely. This is my true strength. Then, Jun Jiang silently called out, "Status window." Immediately, an information panel appeared before his eyes. Name, Li Junjiang, level 99. Trait, player, title, Fire Monarch. Looking at the displayed information, he furrowed his brows in confusion. I thought I had reached level 100 since I've become so much stronger. But why am I still only at level 99? Does this mean I can still become even more powerful? Before he could finish his thought, he suddenly collapsed. Finally, a question echoed in his mind. Looking towards the apocalyptic sky, he silently asked, Who is he?" Witnessing Jun Jiang's fall, Mr. Gu cried out in alarm. Without hesitation, the girl immediately rushed towards Jun Jiang. As soon as she reached him, she quickly checked his condition. She gently placed her hand on his carotid artery, then breathed a long sigh of relief. Thank goodness. He's just unconscious from exhaustion. The young man standing nearby was equally relieved, letting out a sigh. He truly never ceases to amaze. Suddenly, as if remembering something, he looked up at the sky. A humorous smile appeared on his lips as he exclaimed, "With such earth-shattering power, it's understandable he'd faint, like a meteor falling to earth." Meanwhile, in a more peaceful location, Yunil stood on a rooftop, posing a question to the person before her. "Are you truly a hunter?" Fenrir replied with a serious expression, "I'm not a monster. I am human, a true hunter." Hearing this, she became lost in thought. They created a barrier before leaving. Has someone already destroyed it? If they are hunters, then their target is the BU Society. Feria shook her head in disagreement. Not only that, but those bodies, they aren't dead. Wanho, standing beside her, agreed. Fenrir is right. There aren't any corpses here. I believe they're either imprisoned or hiding somewhere. Hearing the good news, Yunil cried out joyfully, "That's wonderful." Wanho acknowledged, "It's all thanks to Seongun that we were able to get here so easily. Fortunately, we avoided the monsters and crossed the mountains safely." Speaking of which, she gently asked the tiger she was holding in her arms, "Seongun, have you fully recovered yet?" He immediately replied, "Not yet, but it won't be long now. I will soon regain all of my strength." Receiving his answer, she was a bit confused. "But if you've recovered some of your energy, why don't you transform? Why keep this appearance?" The Mountain King, Sangun, replied bashfully. Sangun stammered, cleared his throat, and said, "This form is quite comfortable." She suddenly looked towards the distance. "And did you notice a dark soldier listening intently to her words? Now you've completely returned to your human form." Hien Mu looked happily into the distance and gave a bright smile. "I'm all right. Ever since the great catastrophe, everyone seems to have become stronger." Exhausted from the battle, Jun Jiang was quickly taken back to his old apartment. After a short nap, he finally woke up. Seeing this, Song-gu smiled and asked Han, "How are you feeling?" Looking directly at Song-gu, Jun Jiang didn't hide anything and said frankly, "I think this body has been overloaded from a sudden, rapid increase in energy. But right now, I feel great." Hearing that, he replied, "That's good. We just overcame one obstacle, and now we face another difficult problem." He frowned and asked, "What about Gangnam?" He didn't answer immediately, just subtly tilted his chin, gesturing, telling him to see for himself. Following the gesture, he immediately stood up. Looking outside, he exclaimed in astonishment, "Oh my God!" The scene outside had now become a vast battlefield. He couldn't help but exclaim, "It's been reduced to utter ruins." Devastated, CEO Gu quickly reassured him, "Don't worry, everyone there is safe." It seems Hyo completed her mission successfully. Just as he finished speaking, the door suddenly burst open and In Chong appeared. Upon entering, she immediately started complaining. "Why am I always late? In response to Zhang Hui's lament, he just smiled and replied, "Because you're always busy with work." After that playful remark, she quickly moved on to the main issue. "I just came from the shelter, and first of all, the current food situation has been resolved." Suddenly, the stone that always shone brightly on his necklace suddenly underwent a strange transformation. It flashed and then went out, without a single trace of energy left. Faced with this unexpected event, Junji immediately frowned, his expression becoming serious and filled with confusion. Noticing his startled expression, Songgu quickly asked, "What's wrong?" In-chong, standing beside him, couldn't help but wonder as well. But the one being questioned could only silently clench the stone in his hand, lost in thought, speechless. He recalled Merlin's words when he gave him the stone. "As long as I am safe, this necklace will continue to emit a mysterious energy." Just thinking about it, he clenched the stone in his hand. His voice was filled with anxiety. It seemed something unusual was happening in faraway England. And there was another matter. Something he dared not reveal, keeping it locked away in his heart. Could it be the dreaded Demon King? Moments later, on the rooftop of a high-rise building, Jun Jiang stood facing Songgu. He spoke with an anxious and impatient expression. "Any news? I know you're worried, so I came to tell you right away. Currently, communication with the outside is very difficult. The round table is powerful. Don't worry too much." However, these words of encouragement seemed to have no effect on him. He replied, "The last time I spoke with Merlin, she said they were about to meet Olympus. And if what Eagle said is true," he suddenly recalled Eagle's words. "I've also heard about Arthur's mysterious disappearance, that if the crack disappears, there's a high probability the issue in Britain is related to Olympus." Song Songgu seemed hesitant, unsure. I'm not so sure," he added. "Fortunately, we still have contact with Incheon. They're sending a few hunters here." A glimmer of hope appeared. "That's great," he exclaimed. "We can go find Yunil's group then." However, his voice was hesitant. His demeanor was confusing. He continued seriously, "I'm afraid I can't go with you." Junji quickly asked, "You mean you're going to stay here?" But he seemed to have a different idea. "No, I think I need to go to Seoul." Before he could say anything more, he smiled, looking up at the sky. Seoul has the highest concentration of hunters, and the only ones capable of saving the people from this chaos are the hunters. They're the last beacon of hope in this desperate darkness. That's the reason he's here. I think I need to go to Seoul to take care of a few things. They're standing on top of a high-rise building, looking down at the ravaged city below. The young man calmly replies, "I understand." Meanwhile, hunters in Incheon are being deployed to support Gangmyeon. Reinforcements have arrived, and that also means it's time for the underdog team to leave Gangmyeon. The two groups finally reunite on a newly cleared road, the road that leads to hope. Yugo hurriedly asks, "How are we all getting out?" The young man, still smiling, replies, "That's right, we'll leave now." Junjung's support was truly invaluable and timely. The more he thought about it, the tighter Julian clenched his fists. "Thank you, everyone." I don't know how much longer we can endure this darkness. How much longer? He fought back the emotions welling up inside him and choked out, "We understand that the sins we've committed cannot be easily forgiven." Then he spoke frankly. "The mistakes we made were because we were cornered with no other choice. What must we do now to atone?" Faced with such sincere remorse, CEO Gu fell into deep thought. After a moment of silence, he looked directly at them with a stern gaze. "Your crimes are indeed grave. Just as they were drowning in guilt and despair," he spoke. "However, there is still a path to redemption." He gripped Jungwon's shoulder firmly, as if to instill strength and faith in him. His words were resolute and clear. "Repent for the rest of your lives. Protect the people of this place. Save 10 times the number of lives that were taken, regardless of whether a pardon is granted." Du Jun was suddenly thrown back into the past. The image of a mother rushing forward, screaming in despair, begging to be taken in her son's place. The mother clutched her child tightly, tears streaming down her face as she pleaded, "Please spare my son. He didn't do anything wrong. Don't take him away." In that moment, Du Jun was overwhelmed, thinking he had no other choice. His own family was being held captive, used as bargaining chips. Thinking of his loved ones, he could no longer hold back his tears, sobbing uncontrollably. Witnessing this, how could director Gu not understand his pain? He firmly reiterated, "Whether or not forgiveness comes later, even if they find it in their hearts to pardon you. Always atone for the mistakes you've made for the rest of your lives. Miraculously, the sky suddenly cleared, becoming unusually bright and blue. His words carried a glimmer of hope for everyone. Even if you cannot change what happened in the past, you still hold the power to shape your future through the decisions you make. His words were like a beacon of light at the end of a dark tunnel, causing all the soldiers to instantly kneel. Not only him, but also the loyal warriors who followed him were overwhelmed with gratitude, prostrating themselves and chanting their thanks. Thank you, sir. Your grace is as vast as the sky and sea. These heartfelt words also created a profound impact on Junjung's mind. He stood silently behind him, softly repeating the words past and future. Then he turned and walked away, silently asking himself, how could he continue to walk down this path? Was this truly an unchangeable past or a future full of variables? Now, although his back exuded calmness, his heart was filled with worries about the days to come. I really don't know what lies ahead. Before the scene of devastation that enveloped all of Watchone, he spoke calmly, his voice even, as if recounting an ordinary story. This place has been completely destroyed, reduced to rubble. Inchong, standing beside him, witnessed the devastation and sighed with worry. These monsters possess extraordinary power, far beyond anything we've ever encountered. Junjiang furrowed his brow, his sharp gaze directed at her. This is the consequence, the terrible side effect of the catastrophe. Songgu quickly added, providing more information. Although we searched diligently all day, we couldn't find any trace of survivors. What are you going to do now? What's your next move? We're facing a horde of ferocious, bizarre monsters waiting below. You just said, if there are people who need rescuing, that's a different matter entirely. But there are too many monsters. How can we possibly? He smiled gently and spoke. Yunil's group is waiting for us. We should leave this cave. Songgu immediately agreed. All right, let's go. Below, a scene of utter savagery and horror unfolded. Innocent people were being brutally torn apart and devoured by the monsters. Bodies lay scattered, blood splattered everywhere, creating a scene of death and despair. The harsh truth made him frown, his displeasure evident. It turned out that this disaster and cruel reality, even in Gangmyeon, a place controlled by Eagle, wasn't much better than Gwacheon. According to the Demon King's remaining memories, those who called themselves protectors didn't stand by humanity at all. The protectors, were the cause of the disaster. The apocalyptic scene was truly horrifying. He couldn't allow it to continue. Oh, Revelation Sky, I wish to speak with you. He looked up at the deep blue sky, muttering to himself, questioning and answering, even though he knew there would be no reply. Time passed silently. Finally, the three of them arrived at Songnam, and Kang exclaimed in astonishment. Songnam is truly a different world compared to Gwacheon. Jun Ji-som honestly confessed, I didn't dare to expect too much, only sensing a faint barrier surrounding this place. But I never thought it would be this different. This entire territory has fallen into enemy hands, completely different from any area they had set foot in before, he stated firmly. This city seems completely intact, just like before the disaster struck. Moreover, this place is under heavy guard. As soon as they spotted a human silhouette, they realized someone was in the distance. Is that your partner again? Why is he so slow? Immediately, the excited young man gripped the railing tightly, yelling, Everyone, is that underdog? Taken by surprise, Songgu also exclaimed in astonishment, Wait, could that be? Before he could finish his sentence, two guards shouted in a panic. The leader of the Union. That's Gil L. Songgu, without another word. They rushed down below, eager to reach him as quickly as possible. He didn't have to wait long. The two soldiers proudly exclaimed and embraced him, Leader. After the emotional reunion, the group was immediately guided to move, because it had been a long time. Don't worry, just follow this path. I'll lead everyone to safety. I never expected to see you here. Leader. Mr. Gu, with a beaming smile, excitedly introduced his two companions. These are core members of the Gu Junhui League. The man who had been observing finally spoke up. Have you made all the arrangements in Songnam? You should have let us know. This is a surprise. Feeling teased, the young man stammered a reply. No, I just found out myself. He was completely taken aback. How can this be? He turned to the other two, his voice sharp. It's good to see you both. But why are you here, when you should be in Seoul? As soon as he finished speaking, the faces of both men darkened simultaneously. Then, in that hesitant and awkward silence, Co Hien stammered out, He bravely accepted responsibility for all his actions and quietly left the splendor of Seoul. Leader, I sincerely apologize. His face was etched with the horror of haunting memories. Magnificent Seoul was now engulfed in flames, a living hell. Those few words were enough to shock the entire group. Jun gasped, his eyes wide with surprise. At that very moment, the scene abruptly shifted to a completely different, spacious, and clean building. Sudden sounds erupted, shattering the quiet tranquility of this peaceful space. It turned out that Yunyul was leading a group of people rushing forward. Everyone's face was etched with worry and extreme tension. As she ran, she furrowed her brow in thought. This trail is too long. The BU Society's hunters are definitely skilled masters, but the other members of the BU Society are just young, weak hunters. Could they truly escape pursuit and run this far? Faced with desolate paths devoid of human footprints, unease swelled within her. Furthermore, along these roads, there wasn't a single sign of conflict. The only clue was the significantly decreased number of monsters. Anxiety washed over her when suddenly, from the sky above, jet black feathers rained down. Along with them came sharp, piercing cries. This sudden event made her instinctively flinch and look towards the source of the sound. Seeing the creature clearly only deepened her confusion. It was a raven. However, she raised her hand, signaling her companions to halt. Her gesture managed to stop Fanria, who was about to launch an attack. Everyone stood silent, observing the strange raven. Its eyes glowed blood red, its entire body radiating an immense energy. Wanho tense gritted his teeth, thinking this terrifying amount of mana. What is this? Could it be coming from that raven? In an instant, both underwent a startling transformation. Fenrir's entire body glowed with a strange blue light. Sharp fangs suddenly emerged. His eyes flashed with eerie blue light, revealing the true nature of this terrifying creature. Hayamu was also ready to fight, but something unexpected happened. The Black Crow spoke in a raspy human voice. I've been waiting for you for a long time. The cryptic words made Yunyul even more wary. She silently observed the crow, her sharp gaze unwavering. In contrast to the tense atmosphere here, the sky on the other side was strangely clear and peaceful. In the Songnam district, high-rise buildings stood close together, still intact from before the disaster struck. In a small roadside cafe, someone handed Jun Jiayong a glass of water and softly said, "Have some coffee to wake up." Faced with the kind gesture, Jun Jiayong smiled back. "Thank you." It turned out to be Dawn. Seeing him thank her, she became flustered, stammering, No problem. I should be the one thanking you. Enjoy your meal." After the brief greeting, she dashed into another room, her face beaming with joy. "Oh my gosh, I finally got to talk to him. I have to go tell everyone." Witnessing the whole scene, Songgu couldn't help but chuckle and tease. "She didn't ask you out on a date?" In Chong quickly chimed in. "Mr. Popular, huh?" He just scratched his head sheepishly. "Come on, stop teasing me. It's been a month since we arrived in Songnam anyway. We've been here too long." Despite that, he was cheerful. "But it's because we're here, keeping an eye on those monsters, that everyone else can go about their lives freely. Even the schools have reopened. This place is as safe and lively as it was before the disaster." However, even with the immediate danger gone, Inchong still had another worry. Jun Jiayong and I still haven't been able to break through that barrier surrounding the Yangpyeong area, where the Bigju Guild is located. Even the icy power of Bifrost can't penetrate this defense. Songgu worriedly wondered. "I hope Yunyul's team is all right." He looked towards the other man and asked, "What's the situation?" Things seem to be taking a turn for the worse. He exhaled a heavy plume of smoke and said, "We still haven't received any response from Seoul. Getting past this barrier or contacting those inside is impossible. The same situation is happening overseas. Everything is getting worse. Cities that were once considered safe are now facing disaster." He continued to question, "Any news from Egypt or Europe?" The other man responded immediately. "Egypt is still fighting back fiercely, but the situation is extremely critical. Countless hunters have been lost in Set's uprising." He added, "And in Europe, London appears to have been completely destroyed. I've completely lost contact with them. This information has been confirmed by the few hunters who survived that I've had the chance to speak with." Witnessing such a devastating situation, Jun Jiayong was overwhelmed with shock and horror. Unbelievable. Even legends like Merlin and Arthur couldn't withstand the SAO disaster. The scene shifts to Songnam City, where life is slowly returning to normal. As Jun Jaeyoung and In Chong stroll leisurely down the sidewalk, suddenly someone called out, "Mr. Underdog." Jikpori was overjoyed to see them again. The young CEO immediately asked, "Where are you two headed?" Ben replied, "We're going to the border region of Yangpyeong." Hearing this, he immediately showed extreme worry. Yangpyeong is very dangerous, because someone was waiting for us elsewhere. Seeing that, the CEO didn't say anything more and seemed to understand. "I understand," he said. Soon after, a car sped up, approaching where everyone was talking. The car window slowly rolled down. Suyin, sitting in the driver's seat, called out, "Hunter Lee Jun Jaeyoung, let's go." Surprised by the reunion, he exclaimed, "Suyin." Then he got in the car with her. As the car started moving, he said with emotion, "Kim Suyin, an old friend I knew from my early days as a hunter. She's the one who manages and coordinates hunters from all over the country." And she said that when the disaster struck, she was in Songnam. The white car sped down streets. Lost in thought, he realized she had become a private driver for the Underdog Association. He noticed that Songnam seemed to have regained its stability, no longer having to worry about monsters rampaging through the streets. Although eerily silent yet strangely peaceful, the road stretched out impossibly smooth and inviting. He pondered for a moment. The paved roads were pristine, untouched by destruction, allowing the off-road vehicle to navigate with ease. After a long while, the wheels finally stopped rolling. Everyone stepped out of the vehicle, taking in their surroundings. Sujong suddenly spoke, asking him, "Did you find the way to Liangpyeong?" He quickly replied with a bright smile, "I think so." Jung-yeong drew his spear, his familiar weapon, and gripped it tightly. He said sternly, "Let me confirm it one more time." Immediately after, a terrifying surge of energy erupted, traveling along the shaft of the spear. Flames blazed fiercely, burning with intense heat. Intang, standing beside him, smiled confidently. "I can feel the magic," she said. "It's converging from that immense heat source. This can actually be done." He wasn't stopping there. He was preparing to unleash his ult. His crimson eyes turned icy as Wu Yin called out, "Kyeonyum." The legendary sword obeyed its master's command. Energy surged and swirled around him, a tempest waiting to be unleashed. A cataclysmic eruption poised to shake the very foundations of the world. Finally, as Wu Yin raised his sword high, a colossal wave of heat and magic, which had been building, erupted towards the barrier. A terrifying collision shook the very fabric of space. Witnessing the awe-inspiring spectacle, Suzy gasped in astonishment. "That's terrifying. Are you even human?" But then, Jun Jaeyoung, the one who had just unleashed such devastating power, sighed. Even so, he looked at the unscathed barrier before him and said, "Even with this power, I can't break this barrier." He sheathed his weapon and fell in a deep thought. "It seems attacking a single point won't be effective, unless I continuously bombard the entire barrier." He was perplexed. "Didn't you say you had a plan? Are you still so confident?" Suddenly, a shadowy figure appeared behind In Jang. The newcomer made no sound, then spoke, startling her. "Everything is ready, master." It turned out he came for him after hearing a report from his subordinate. He became even more smug. "Excellent. Let's begin." As soon as he finished speaking, powerful tremors reverberated through the surroundings. On the streets, once deserted and empty, a bizarre army now approached. It was an army of gigantic soldiers, looking like resurrected zombies. This horrifying scene suddenly appeared before her eyes, making Sujong gasp in terror. "Oh my God, that's..." Her unfinished words coincided with the growls of the monstrous legion. "Gui-ti, damn it, we have to get out of here." Hio's eyes opened and flashed a chilling, icy blue. Time slipped by, and soon the sky began to bleed into dust. Below, withered skeletons emanated a terrifying green aura scattered across the ground. Jun Jaeyoung breathed heavily, exhausted, sweat drenching him. He turned to the newcomer. "What do you think? Is this plan feasible?" Hio replied, "Yes, I believe so." However, she added with a worried tone, "But will you be all right? You look exhausted." "Time is of the essence. We can't stop," he said firmly. "However, I have a feeling this will require extensive preparation." "How long do you need?" Hio quickly answered. "1 week will be sufficient." Jun Jaeyoung nodded in satisfaction. "Good. Then prepare as quickly as possible." Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, a week had passed. The moment of departure had arrived. Zhang Yuang's group decided to leave this temporary shelter. Although he already knew, Henry still wanted to confirm one more time. Are you all really leaving? Everyone smiled softly and nodded in agreement. He continued, there are many hunters in Songnam. I will try to compile a list of hunters who can help protect everyone. However, Zhang Yuang declined his kind offer. No need. Please focus your efforts on protecting Songnam. Along with Gangmyeong and Incheon, protect Korea. Henry chuckled with a resolute voice. Understood. Then the smile on his lips widened even further. His eyes shone with determination as he promised. We will protect this place just like you protected us. Finishing his words, Henry's entire squad bowed in unison and shouted, thank you for everything. Witnessing this scene, Songgu felt happy for Zhang Yuang. It seemed there was nothing left to worry about. Jun Jiang returned a friendly smile, their presence here putting him at ease. He felt a profound sense of peace. After the brief greeting, the group of three turned their backs and left the quiet city. Suddenly, the scene shifted dramatically, transporting them to another location in a flash. In Yangpyeong, the streets were eerily quiet and peaceful. Buildings stood tall and proud, as if nothing had ever happened. From above, a mysterious figure, cloaked from head to toe, stood behind a massive glass window, silently observing the scene below. Below, a long line of people patiently queued, waiting their turn to receive food rations. They carried their food trays, chatting animatedly, the atmosphere lively and bustling. Gone was the fear of monster attacks. It's all thanks to him. He truly is a genius, a gift from the heavens. Just then, a man called out, gathering the new hunter recruits. Everyone, this way please. We'll begin the training process. Suddenly, the man stumbled and then exclaimed admiringly, look, the scouts have brought back the survivors. Following his gaze, a bus pulled to a stop, and from inside, the lucky survivors were helped out one by one. However, one of them felt the scrutinizing gaze of a mysterious figure who had been silently watching him. Seemingly annoyed by the peaceful scene before him, he turned his head and muttered under his breath with a look of disgust. The mysterious man turned around and looked behind him. There, Yunil sat silently, lost in thought. Losing his patience, Yunil irritably let go of the others. Hyojin stood his ground, responding CA. If you wish to leave, feel free. He seemed indifferent to their decision. If you decide to go, I won't stop you. However, I can't guarantee the safety of that wolf or the White Tiger Guild. Hearing this, Yunil fell into deep thought. Following the crow was no different than walking into a trap. The Sky Pond villagers who traveled with her had all been captured. Every thought churned in her mind, carefully weighed before a final decision could be made. Her thoughts raced relentlessly. Thanks to Faria Sangin's selfless sacrifice, Wanhwa and Hyeonmu were able to escape. That man hadn't caught them yet. That meant they would come to rescue her and the Sky Pond villagers. She glanced at him, her eyes filled with suspicion. As if reading her mind, Hyojin spoke with a knowing look. I can see right through you. She calls herself a brilliant commander. If she devised such a simple plan, does she really think those deserters would bring him here? Upon hearing that, her face darkened, a look of horror washing over her. This guy has everything in the palm of his hand. Hyojin seemed to suddenly realize something important. He became frantic, a sinister smile spreading across his face as he stared at his palm. His eyes filled with excitement as he exclaimed, whatever happens, enjoy yourselves. It seems he's arrived. Right here. Yunil broke out in a cold sweat, surprised by his appearance. Lee Junjiang is here. With such confidence. He must have made ample preparations to welcome Lee Junjiang. She recalled the image of Junjiang in a fighting stance, ready to face any enemy. This gave her some comfort. At least, I don't have to worry anymore. Her relief was clearly visible. If it's him, then nothing seems impossible. Yunil walked along the quiet hallway toward another room. She hesitated for a moment at the door, worry etched on her face. Then, taking a deep breath, Yunil turned the handle and entered. Inside, Faria was bound tightly with heavy chains. A somber atmosphere weighed heavily upon him. Yunil focused her energy, her small hand reaching out, preparing to cast a spell. Gentle magic emanated from her hands, slowly healing Faria's wounds. Color returned to Faria's face as he opened his eyes slightly and whispered her name. Yunil. Yinul's eyes were filled with regret and self-blame. Feria, I'm so sorry. I try to heal you, but these chains, they're too strong. Beyond my abilities. Pushing back her sadness, Yinul quickly said, but I have good news. He'll be here soon. Yinul's words left Feria speechless with astonishment. A glimmer of hope appeared, bringing a weak smile to his face. Master Li, Jun Jiang, he's finally coming? Under a gloomy sky filled with dark clouds, horrifying sounds echoed from within the green, glowing cage. Hordes of goblins frenziedly charged in to attack. They were repeatedly electrocuted by the energy dome, their bodies riddled with burn marks. The number of goblins seemed endless. Wave after wave patiently waiting their turn. From above, CEO Ongu observed the entire scene, unable to help but exclaim, incredible. Meanwhile, Inchang appeared extremely worried, her face pale. She anxiously asked, is everything alright? Didn't those monsters just break into the barrier? When CEO Ongu turned to look at Inchang, he too wore the same confused expression as her. I'm not sure either. The person who could answer these questions is busy. We can't ask. Behind them, Jun Jiang remained calm, focused on cultivating, constantly raising his realm, pouring every ounce of sweat and effort into completing the task. And King couldn't help but admire him, while simultaneously feeling a pang of guilt. Seeing him work so diligently, just asking him feels like a burden. Siongu's gaze turned serious as he noticed the significant decrease in the number of monsters. Is that enough, I wonder? In just a few short minutes, the once transparent barrier, a pure azure blue, was now stained crimson with the blood of the demons. Inkang glanced down, a chill running down his spine. A barrier drenched in the blood of monsters. A voice rang out, making everyone's hair stand on end, causing both of them to turn around. Catching their attention, Jun Jung had completed his cultivation. Hiobai floated in front of him, announcing, I'll begin now. Suddenly, a shriek pierced the air. Oh my god, the monster's blood. It's burning. Someone else asked, bewildered, has it started? The raging flames within gradually formed a furious vortex. Then it slammed into the ground with terrifying force, sending dust and debris billowing into the air, obscuring everything. The fire seemed to gain strength, burning fiercer and more ferociously than ever before. Thick smoke and fire spread as far as the distant city of Songnam. The hunters, hearing the earth-shattering explosion, were terrified. What was that? That was a huge explosion. It came from the direction the leader and underdog went. Inkang gasped for breath, exhausted as if he had just run a marathon. So she led the guild members here. This is Jian Pyong. A massive column of dust and smoke rose high, blotting out the clear blue sky. The barrier is back. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air, causing her to instantly turn towards Jun Hyang. To her shock, Jun Hyang was lying curled up on the ground, trembling uncontrollably. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. Sujong, seeing this, panicked and cried out in despair. 00:13:4. Inkang, standing beside him, quickly explained the situation. He's overused his magic energy. The mana flow is reversing on him. Siongu prepared to use his own power to heal Yung Yun, a barrier that even I, with Bifrost, couldn't break. He pushed himself too hard. I'll regulate his mana flow. He placed his hand on Jung Yun's back, transferring his own internal energy. Immediately, he recoiled, coughing up blood and pain. Inkang watched in horror. Siongu stumbled back several steps, looking at his trembling hand with terror. This isn't normal mana. If I hadn't disconnected quickly, I would have been knocked unconscious by the backflow. It was like looking into a bottomless abyss, something I shouldn't have seen. Sujong cried out, no, don't, please stop. Inchang couldn't hold back any longer and let out a sigh. Let me try. I volunteer. But Songu strongly objected and hurriedly explained. No, this isn't ordinary mana. Not everyone can withstand it. You could die. She remained firm in her decision, asserting, so we should just stand by and watch him like this? Why am I any different from anyone else? I will save Jun Jiang at any cost. Without hesitation, despite the danger, she risked her life to save him. I still have many weaknesses compared to Songu, she thought, but I have learned about the flow of mana. From the awakening of the Blood Dragon Stone, I understand the principles of mana flow and how to control it. If I utilize the mana flow, I'm sure I can do it. Finally, In-chong placed both hands on Jun Jiang's back. A tremendous surge of energy continuously poured forth. She gritted her teeth, focusing all her strength to channel mana into his body. Sweat poured off her as she pushed with all her might. She could see the energy flowing into a massive abyss. Finally, Junhyang seemed to find some relief. A tiny spark of hope ignited within In Kang. I'm not afraid. As long as I can save him, she thought. Even if it costs me my life, I'm willing. Director Gu's face lit up with relief as he saw her efforts bear fruit. Junhyang gradually stabilized. In Kang gently withdrew her hand from Junhyang. Just as she breathed a sigh of relief, he suddenly collapsed. It seemed In Kang had also reached her limit, completely exhausted. A mouthful of blood spurted from her lips. Yet, she turned back and offered a bright smile. I saved him, she said to Director Gu. Seeing her about to collapse, Director Gu shouted in alarm. In Kang, unable to stand any longer, fell backward. Utter exhaustion was etched across her face. But fortunately, Gong Ju caught her just in time in his warm embrace. Meanwhile, Mr. Gu was incredibly worried, rushing over, curses spilling from his mouth. Damn it. In-jong seemed to be hit by a powerful backlash, struggling to breathe. Of course, there are consequences for using magic so carelessly. Her mana fluctuated so violently. Will a single elixir be enough to heal her? He wondered silently. But there's no other choice. I can't just leave her like this. He hurriedly took out an elixir. Suddenly, a voice rang out, making him stop. I'll do it. It's Wanhwa's request. Please step aside. Songgu looked towards Wanhwa's left shoulder, his eyes filled with worry and pity. But his hand, he remained resolute. That doesn't matter anymore, a firm voice declared. Then let's begin. Immediately after, he condensed his energy into sharp needles, piercing them into In-chong's body without hesitation. While Su Jin gasped in astonishment, Songgu couldn't help but praise. Incredible skill. In-chong's mana flow rapidly returned to normal. Wonho breathed a sigh of relief and ordered them to bring Jun Jiang there immediately. Then he announced to everyone around, we have to get out of here now. Mr. Gu's car. He didn't finish his sentence before a loud crash echoed. Hearing this, Su Jin whipped her head around in alarm. The ground shook violently. A thick, black cloud of dust surged towards them. He cried out in terror, "Oh God!" Ferocious monsters charged towards them with terrifying speed. Thousands of grotesque monsters appeared. Gong Ju clenched her fists, ready to fight. She boldly unleashed her power, asserting her authority, and yelled, "Princess!" Before she could react, Wanhwa appeared from behind, hoisting In Kang over his shoulder. Please, princess, don't act rashly. Come with us, he urged. As if she couldn't believe her ears, she asked, come with you? He calmly explained, someone will take care of things here. Suddenly, Hyanma materialized out of thin air, declaring, I will handle this. Protect the master and leave this place. Mr. Gu looked at her with a dubious expression, but quickly understood his master's intent. So, you still haven't heard my question? She admitted, indeed. I am Hyanma. Her gaze sharpened, radiating a powerful aura. An army for an army of monsters. I will deal with them. She summoned a legion of skeletons, ready to engage the horde of monsters. The monsters surged in greater numbers, lumbering forward relentlessly. Hyunwoo stood tall and imposing, unwavering in his resolve, before his entire legion. Witnessing this, Songwoo, standing beside him, couldn't help but feel a surge of admiration. Truly extraordinary, frozen by the overwhelming power of the massive army. Thousands of skeletal warriors. The scene abruptly shifts to a different location. Amidst an eerily silent forest, a misty fog slowly dissipates, revealing a dark cave entrance. Inside, people are seeking refuge. Songwoo observes the scene before him with a serious expression. This place is a shelter. Wanhwa, standing beside him, confirms yes. He urges everyone, we must act quickly. Hyunwoo approaches Songwoo with a request. Please, entrust the master to me. Songwoo responds gratefully. Thank you. Wanhwa then informs Songwoo. I'll go check on the treatment situation. I know everyone has a lot of questions. He will explain everything personally. This appearance made him incredibly curious. He stepped forward with a dignified introduction. I am Seeing Gun. His deep voice resonated. While the others are being treated, I will tell you what happened. Song-gu's eyes widened in disbelief at what he was witnessing. Seeing Gun. You are Seeing Gun, he thought. A beast human? But isn't Seeing Gun supposed to be a mighty white tiger? Why is your fur red and black? A sudden silence fell over the cave. He stood before Song-gu, his eyes filled with questions. We left Seoul for Lee Junjiang's residence. Do you know the current situation in Seoul? CEO Gu replied with a serious expression. Since a powerful barrier was erected, we have lost all contact with Seoul. Perhaps a new ruler has emerged, but we can't be certain. A hint of melancholy flickered in his eyes. Amidst the joy of reunion, a sense of unease lingered. After we left, a barrier vanished. We couldn't grasp the full extent of the situation at the time. However, we felt fortunate to have escaped. He glanced back at the shelter. Regardless, we had moved to that house in Yangpyeong, but the families that were gone. Only signs of a hasty escape remained, and the story continued. With Feria's help, we followed the remaining clues. We followed the trail for a long time, and when we arrived, he was there, as if he had anticipated everything. Song-gu, hearing another name mentioned in the conversation, he looked intrigued. Seeing Gun replied, he intended to capture us, and we realized we had a decision to make. Fight to the death or find a way to escape. He seemed to realize something and hurriedly asked, wait, where are the others? Where are Feria, Yinyul, and him, the one you always talk about? Sang-gun let out a cruel laugh filled with hatred. Feria and Yumi stayed behind, to hold him back so we could escape. In the end, they were all captured. Ha! Him, who is he? Immediately, he flew into a rage, pointed at him, and revealed the truth. Odin, it was none other than your leader, Odin. He was terrified. What? Song-gu couldn't believe it was Odin either. What? Odin is in Yangpyeong, not Seoul. Odin, it was none other than your leader, Odin. He was terrified. What? Song-gu couldn't believe it was Odin either. What? Odin is in Yangpyeong, not Seoul.